Hello, welcome to GPTV on Tuesday the 1st of July. My name is Gary Peer.
I'm Philip Kingston, Gary, and I normally do the introduction. What prompted you to just jump in like that?
Just feeling a bit wild and frisky. Thought I'd give it a go,
You're
Phil.
so out there, Gary, so cutting edge, really.
Yeah, you've got to mix it up a little bit, Phil. Keep it interesting for the viewers.
Yep.
Not the ladies and gentlemen. Phil, we are right in the heart of McKinnon here in number 12A Malcolm Street. Tell us about this property.
Gary,
it's a beauty.
You know what? We talked about, in the last couple of weeks, we've talked about the Knight Building Group. Now, we do not have shares in the Knight Building Group.
No.
We talked about the fact that we wished we had shares in the Knight Building Group. We're here at this incredible home. Now, this is one of two, and this we've talked about many times, this being the future of real estate, Gary. 2 properties on the one allotment.
This one sets the standard, doesn't it?
This is a new breakthrough. All I can say to the builders is, wow, what an amazing job you've done here, because we've sold dozens, if not scores, if not 100 two-storey townhomes. But this is right up there with the best I've ever seen in Melbourne anywhere.
Well, we've got the walkthrough with you now on the screen, doing the virtual tour, Phil. Take us through the house. It's a beautiful home, isn't it?
Gary, they've put in everything that you could ever possibly want in a luxury home. In fact, you know, if you didn't know this was one of 2, you just wouldn't know. It feels, it's the size of a home. It's 3 bedrooms and a study, 2.5 bathrooms. Every piece of technology that you could possibly imagine is included here. There's a built-in iPad on the wall that runs the Sonos and the surround sound. And these floors, Gary, these wide European oak engineered boards are amazing. The way everything looks into greenery, the kitchen, the choice of light fittings, it's really an extraordinary property. Gary, this is the future.
The future is here, Phil.
The future is here.
It's here in Malcolm Street. We'll look forward to seeing you bidding frenetically for this home. It's going to be on the 26th of July, Philip, at 10:30 a.m, this wonderful property in Malcolm Street, McKinnon. Philip, we've got some auctions up this weekend, and then we're going to talk a little bit about having a discussion about a controversial topic, Philip, which is quoting prices.
Quoting prices and the auction system. Gary, I must say, I've had a quick look at you. I'm looking at you as we speak, actually. And you suspiciously look like you're wearing last week's clothes.
Oh, you look like you're wearing last week's clothes, mate.
So for those GPT viewers that were watching last week, which we hope is all of you.
You're a bit crusty there, Phil.
You look suspiciously like you're wearing last week's clothes. So I'm starting to wonder, is this a pre-record, is it?
It could well be, Phil. I could be, while you're watching this, I could well be on a roller coaster somewhere in the world. Phil,
so essentially, this could be a pre-record because you might be, as we speak, in Disney World, Florida.
I might well be there, Phil. I could well be there. I could be in Miami Beach as well, in South Beach, pumping and grinding to the music.
Well, hopefully you will look at some property in Miami, Gary, because we need obviously to ensure that your trip was tax deductible.
Oh, of course.
And if the tax commissioner is watching this show, which I'm sure he probably is, he wasn't really at Disney World. He wasn't. It was purely a business trip.
I'll take the hit. Let's talk about what's coming up this weekend. Then we're going to talk about a very topical real estate issue that is always there, the issue of quoting prices, Phil. So,
and we're going to demystify this whole what is underquoting, Gary.
Okay.
And we've always said in this show that we're going to talk about real estate from a factual point of view. We're going to go where other real estate agents won't go, which is they're all trying to hide behind this whole quoting system, the auction system. But we're going to demystify it for you viewers in just a moment. Let's talk about what's coming up this weekend, Gary.
Phil, we start off this Saturday, the 5th of July in Westbury Street, a great address, and that one's going to be auctioned at 10:30 a.m. Tell us a little about it, Philip, won't you?
I will, Gary, but firstly I'm going to say I've got a bit of a soft spot for Westbury Street in St Kilda, because when I first started in real estate, all those decades ago, Gary, one of the first properties I sold...
the 50s? Or?
One of the first properties I sold was in Westbury Street.
This is 1956, how many pounds was it?
This is apartment number 1 at 83 Westbury Street, St Kilda East, and it is a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 1-car space apartment. And what a great entry into the market this is, Gary, for first home buyers or investors. And if you're an investor watching this show, I would thoroughly recommend Westbury Street, St Kilda.
And if you don't want to go there, Phil, you can just hop up the road to Halstead Street, a very affordable property at entry levels in the market, Phil, in that somewhere probably around the mid to high 200s in Halstead Street, 2 at 62 Halstead Street. What a
One
great start
bedroom,
this will
one
be.
bathroom, one car space, polished timber floorboards. It's a really nice apartment, that one. In Halstead Street, you can walk out your front door, get on the tram in Hawthorne Road, go to the cafes in Hawthorne Road, or walk to Caulfield Park, where no doubt they will see you, Gary, walking around there in your little white shorts at 5 a.m. in the morning.
I'm going to be there.
Because you're so fit and healthy, really, aren't you?
I know, a vision of healthiness, Phil. We
Those
are...
little tight Warwick Kappa shorts that you wear, you look a treat.
Don't think so, Phil. I think that'll clear out the park pretty quickly, Phil. Saturday is a very affordable real estate day at Gary Peer Associates because we have a property, Phil, in Grosvenor Street coming up as well, and that one's at 12:30 p.m. Leon's handling it. Tell us a little bit about this one.
Apartment 12 at 91 Grosvenor Street,
Yep.
Gary. A gorgeous apartment, light and bright, one bedroom, one bathroom, one car space, polished timber floorboards throughout. That's what we call a turnkey solution to your housing needs, because there's not a cent to spend there. Just put the key in the front door and turn it on settlement day. That's all you have to do.
Saturday.
That's a turnkey housing solution.
Turnkey solution, Phil. That's Saturday. Affordable properties, 3 of them. Some great buys for investors or first home buyers wanting to start off in the real estate market, Phil.
It goes
And on
to
Sunday,
show, just to cut in there, it just goes to show that you can still buy in the most vibrant and exciting suburbs of Melbourne, Caulfield, St Kilda, for around that 300 mark.
high 2s, low 3s,
Yep.
some of those under
encouraging,
300
really.
perhaps. It's very encouraging, Phil. So is the property in Snowden Avenue that we're auctioning on Sunday morning. That one's at 10:30 a.m. Number 31 Snowden Avenue. Mr. Adam Joski's been involved with his team. Tell us a little about it, won't you?
What a stunning house, Gary. 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bathrooms, off-street car parking for 2 cars, polished timber floorboards throughout, open fireplace, beautiful kitchen. That is a great property, and Snowden Avenue has long been one of my favourite streets. You can walk from Snowden Avenue to Princess Park, to Caulfield Park, and also the tram in Hawthorne Road, Gary. So a great accessible location.
On Sunday morning at 11:30, we're auctioning a property in Dandenong Road. That happens to be the address of 2 at 420 Dandenong Road. Tell us a little about this one being handled by Leo Samuel Phillip.
Gary, I think this is a bit of a misdescribed property. Technically, you're right about the address being Dandenong Road, but its entrance is actually faces Waiora Road,
Yes.
and Waiora Road, as the viewers will remember from a huge sale we had there a couple of weekends ago,
One of the best
streets of Caulfield North. So this does face Waiora Road, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, 1 car space, single-storey villa, one of the oldies from the 70s, and they are great properties because they're solid, they're light, they're bright, they're cubic. Really good property.
Phil, many years ago on the corner of Estdale and Hawthorne Road, there was a car yard. I don't know
Yes,
if you remember that.
Estdale Motors.
It was
Gary.
Estdale Motors, and we sold it to a gentleman who then demolished it and built one of the most wonderful projects in Caulfield North, Phillip. And this property has since been sold, and a number of other properties within the complex have been sold, and we have an offering. Tell us a bit about it, please,
Well,
at 153 Hawthorne Road, Phillip.
Before we do, viewers, I actually bought a car from Estdale Motors many years ago. They used to be a Mazda dealership. I bought a 626 2-door with a sunroof. Gary,
How
and
long
I
did
was-
you keep that for?
Well, it's not a matter of how long I kept it for. It's a matter of how long did it take me to write it off.
It would happen to be Phillip Kingston, one of Melbourne's worst drivers.
Although I've got to tell
No
you,
doubt.
I am a panel beater's delight.
We've got the
because-
Kingston wing and the Andy Holtz's Inkerman panels. Got
Viewers might not know, but I've always driven
wing.
nice cars.
Yeah.
But actually
Badly.
I actually don't care less about cars. I'm not a car person.
From
so,
the country, just worried about cows and just not
so
killing
for
cows,
me,
livestock.
for me, if I get a car and have had it for more than 12 months without it going to a panel beater, that's a bit of a rarity. But I don't care because cars, viewers, are depreciating assets as opposed to real estate, which is
Now,
an
true-
appreciating asset
true
for the
story.
accountants that are watching.
True story, when he was about 17 or 18, he got his licence very young because he's from
I
New
did,
South
from
Wales.
New South Wales.
He went and test drove an Alfa Romeo. This is absolute fact, by the way. Test drove an Alfa Romeo, and we went to visit some girls at Presbyterian Ladies College, which we were going to take out, and we're going down Burwood Road.
We were a big hit with the ladies.
Oh, yeah, it was such a big hit. So what happened was we drove down Toorak Road, and which becomes Burwood Road, if I'm not mistaken, and Phillip goes to drive into PLC, loses control of the car, and actually smashes the gates of PLC. And of course, the cars get driven back into the showroom of records like a movie, and suffice to say, the girls didn't want to come out with us, and the principal at PLC wasn't too impressed either.
No,
That's
the car,
a true, very
we actually,
absolute true story.
being the
Frightening.
quick-witted guys that we were, we took it back into the car dealership.
Said, I don't think we'll take this one."
completely smashed to pieces. And before they could launch legal proceedings against us, we said, look, could we get a copy of the roadworthy certificate for this car? To which the dealer said, oh, we don't have a roadworthy certificate. To which we looked at them with horror on our faces saying, you let us drive a car without a roadworthy certificate? They let us go.
We're past the statute of limitations. They can't get us.
Okay, let's get back to the
this
property.
fact,
Let's get
Philip.
back to the property.
153
I
Hawthorne Road.
like this development, Gary.
Yes.
It's a great
You're
position.
auctioning it,
Once
Phil.
again on Hawthorne Road,
Yes.
access to the park, the
Yes.
shops, the public transport.
The tram, it's all there.
great. It's a great
Cafes.
building, and this is a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom with basement car parking for 2 cars. So if you're looking for a great apartment, this is it.
Now we're going to talk about a bit of a hot issue in the real estate market, although it wasn't so hot a couple of years ago because it tends to inflame and become hot when prices are on the move, and that is the issue of quoting prices and underquoting. And we want to talk a little bit about how our quote prices work in our office, because the reality is we have a process.
Okay, but before
it's
we,
a very good process.
Before we
want to talk about it.
before we talk about our process, so this is really what is underquoting. So let me just explain to the viewers the preliminary to what you're going to say.
Okay.
When a real estate agent comes out to your home and you agree to give them the business, you're going to sign what we call an auction authority. And most real estate agents, in fact, you shouldn't deal with a real estate agent that's not a member of the Real Estate Institute of Victoria, which is the governing body. They're going to use an REIV, Real Estate Institute of Victoria Auction Authority. And on that auction authority, the Consumer Affairs, together with the Institute, has put this authority together. We have to give the vendor an opinion of value of the property that can be no greater than 10% apart. So if we were looking at a property for $1 million to 1.1, if we said your property is worth 1 million to 1.1 million, that's 10%. If we said
that's documented.
and we're going to write that on the authority. Once we've written in that amount on the authority, we cannot say to the public a price that is lower than the bottom figure. So if I went out to the marketplace, having put $1 million to 1.1 on the authority, if I said to a buyer, oh, the vendor's looking for $900,000 plus,
or 800 plus,
or 800 plus, or even 999,000 plus, I am now in breach of the quoting system. I am now regarded as underquoting the property. Now that's as far as Consumer Affairs is concerned.
The issue runs a bit deeper.
But it does run deeper, Gary. So I'm now going to flick to you, having now explained
so
the
that's the
10% range on the authority.
So
by the way, sorry, just to cut in, I could put on somebody's authority $1 million to $1.08 million. I don't have to give a full 10%.
No,
but it can be no greater than 10%. So if I put $1 million to $1,105,000, I'm now in breach of the Act.
Now, what tends to happen, viewers, is when the market is strong and prices are going up, there is a lot of sales that appear that are in excess of the range that was quoted. And buyers will often, and angry buyers will often say that's an underquote. The reality is that every real estate agent has a fiduciary duty to their vendor to get the best price. And the job is not to hold prices back. Our job is to get the best price to our principal who is selling with us and has employed and entrusted us to sell for them. That does not mean that we are going to be misleading the public, and our process is that we will ask every vendor, not for their reserve price, because we don't believe a vendor should be committed and locked into a reserve price. They have I believe they should have the choice of deciding their reserve on the auction day based on other sales.
And keeping in mind, viewers, a vendor is allowed to change their mind.
Absolutely.
They're allowed to put their price down, they're allowed to put their price up.
And they do.
And in a bullish market, Gary, a market where there's a lot of activity going on, a vendor might say on day one of a campaign, look, I'll take $1 million. Then a couple of sales could have occurred over the weeks where the vendor now thinks, well, if that one sold for $1,100,000, mine's as good as that, so maybe I'll put my reserve up. So they are allowed to change their mind.
Absolutely, they're entitled to. So we will, at the start of every campaign, ask our vendors to allow us and empower us to put a price range out there at a range that they will consider. And at the end of the day, they do have the right, of course, to change their mind. We sell a lot of properties in our range, we sell a lot of properties out of our range, and we sell some properties beneath our range. But at the end of the day, it is our vendor's choice. And I think the other underquote Clear underquote is when you are quoting a price that the vendor has absolutely no intention of selling within.
Okay, so let's talk about that,
Hot
because there are some agents out there that don't play the game as transparently as we do.
I believe so.
So what you're saying is that
so.
there are some agents out there that they might be quoting 1 to 1.1,
But
but
the
their vendor
vendor
has said to them, listen, you can quote that, but I really want 1.3, 1.4,
That's right.
and the agent says, oh well, listen, just let's go with that, and that'll get a lot of interest. At Gary Peer and Associates, we're trying as much as possible to indicate to the public that the vendor will consider selling
At
in
auction,
the range that we've put out to the marketplace.
Absolutely.
So essentially is what we're saying, and I'm kind of almost interviewing you, Gary. If we have a range of 1 to 1.1, can the public therefore expect that the vendor would consider selling in that range?
Well, I think they can, but I think the public also has to understand that the vendor has the right to change their mind, and sometimes do, and sometimes that's as unpleasant or more so for us than it is for the buying public out there. But I think what also the buying public must understand is that when properties sell for way beyond their price range, it is often just a function of a competitive auction, an agent doing their job for the vendor, and a price that's excessive or a price that ends up selling for a premium does not mean it's an underquote, and that's where I think there's a lot of misunderstanding.
I'm going to put a real time and a real example to this, Gary. We had a property a couple of weekends ago at number 18 Virginia Court, where we had been given an expectation by the vendor that they would sell in that range of kind of 1.4 to 1.5-ish. Right?
And we quoted what?
So I think we quoted that range.
Yep.
We announced the property was on the market. The vendor was a seller in that range and had given us a reserve in that range. And we announced it on the market, and 3 people bid it all the way to $1,730,000. So this was a property that was sold for approximately $200,000 or more over the vendor's reserve.
And the top of the
a
estimated range.
casual or a cynical buyer might have said, oh, that's an underquote. But no, it wasn't. The market forces market forces will ultimately determine the value of a property. We can pitch it at one price. The vendor was a seller in that range. The market take it to hundreds of thousands of dollars more. That is not an underquote. That is market forces at play, and that is emotion at play. And the thing that I'd like to just say, Gary, in a market like we work in, this inner suburban area, all properties are different.
They're not all the same.
Supply is generally very low, demand is very high, and we've had circumstances where people have got into a bidding duel for reasons that are completely unrelated to the property.
And not commercial.
For example,
not commercial.
I want to buy that because my mother lives round the corner and I want to be walking distance to her. So at the end of the day, they might pay tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars more for a property just because of what it gives them, not necessarily about its bricks and mortar and land content.
Now, Consumer Affairs are very committed and dedicated to finding underquoting situations and underquoting agents, and they are out there. And as Enzo Raimondo has said from the ROV, is they are not finding many cases at all of any real evidence of underquoting. So this will disappear as the market settles. It flares up when the market's
in a rising market.
And we didn't hear it much in 2011 and 12, did we? It went
very
away.
rarely.
But the reality is when property prices go up, and they have gone up again, then you're going to hear this flare up every now and then.
I think the other thing that I'd say to viewers, and without fail, they can do this with us, is that if they're genuinely interested in a property with us, then have a one-on-one conversation with the salesperson and say, look, I am interested in this property.
Where do you think where
do you think it's going to be?
How much interest is there?
Am I one of 1, 1 of 2, 1 of 5 bidders? I'm a buyer at around this price. Am I in the mix? And look, I've got to tell you, all of our salespeople and most salespeople with most professional agencies, they're in the business of pleasing people, not irritating them.
Today's buyer is tomorrow's seller, Phil, and there's no value for us in upsetting or misleading anybody.
So I would say to any of our viewers, particularly if you're looking at something with us, have a one-on-one with the salesperson. Ring me, ring Gary. Now, we'll gladly tell you the way it is.
The other alternative is no quote price at all. And I know some other agents in our market don't have quote prices, and that's fine if that's how you want to operate your business. But I must say that buyers do say to us regularly, even though properties often in an auction scenario will run away, They would rather have a price range, I think, even if it sells for a lot more, than no price range at all. I think their time is much better spent and used, and we'll welcome any comments or views because it's a hot topic. It's
It is a hot
issue,
topic, Gary.
and we're happy to have anybody come in at ideas@garypeer.com.au and have this alive, and because it's a issue that we're passionate about and care a lot
I just
about.
want to pick up on a comment that you made before. Consumer Affairs are right on top of this. They
Absolutely.
are out there in the marketplace.
They are.
Viewers, we're seeing them at auctions.
Yep.
They came into our office
They've been
a couple
in
of
our
weeks
office,
ago just to have a chat with us to talk
And
about
an audit.
how things are going and an audit. So I can
And they
te-
do it with many agents.
And I can tell you now that all of the evidence that I have speaking to other agents is that Consumer Affairs have been into a lot of offices. So
have some faith.
All credit to Consumer Affairs. They are trying to take this seriously, but everybody acknowledges, Gary, in a rising market, we're getting so many auctions where we're getting prices that we sometimes scratch our heads and go, how did we achieve
Absolutely.
that?
We drive away ourselves and go, how the hell? But that's the auction system. It's always going to be interesting. It's always going to be controversial because there's always going to be situations that occur that people didn't expect to anticipate. And that's what makes Melbourne so unique.
But one thing I would really welcome any viewer, if they want to talk to me more about or talk to you more about it, pick up the phone and ring us because we've got nothing much to do anyway and we'd love to have a chat.
You'll hear the bip bip bips if you call me because I'm going to be overseas. But it's
But
always a
you'll
pleasure.
be paying for the call, won't you? Well,
I could.
I'll be paying for the call.
You'll pay half it. So
Anybody want lunch in the next couple of weeks while Gary's away? Give me a
interesting
call.
talking to you and at GPTV. I look forward to, together with Philip, keeping you involved with what's going on in the real estate market. I'm Gary Peer.
And give us some feedback, please, as to whether you found this useful. Because
Supposed to wrap it up now.
It's something new for us to
You missed the
actually
moment.
take on the hot topics. Thanks very much for watching. I'm Philip Kingston. Have a great week.